Grace, are we ready to begin?
Yes, ma'am.
Then I call to order the March 25, 2021 meeting of the Palm Desert City Council, successor agency to the Palm Desert Redevelopment Agency and Housing Authority meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Mayor Pro Tem Harnik.
Here.
Councilman Jonathan.
Present.
Councilmember Nastandi.
Here.
Councilmember Quintanilla.
Present.
Mayor Kelly.
Here.
All present.
I invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance with particular attention to those final words, with liberty and justice for all. Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
Of
the
the United States
States
of
of
America.
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Councilmember Jonathan will offer our inspiration invocation this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. So this past week brought with it the vernal equinox, which, as we all know, marks the beginning of spring. It's an interesting occurrence when the sun is exactly opposite the equator, when the length of day is exactly equal to the length of night, and when the northern hemisphere begins its tilt towards the sun, bringing with it longer days and warmer weather to our part of the world. In short, it's a time of change, anticipation, and hope, which is coincidental because we are seeing change, positive change, with regard to the worldwide health crisis. And that brings with it anticipation and hope that we have rounded the corner and perhaps can finally begin the process of returning to some level of normalcy. Let us remain vigilant, however, in exercising the precautions we must still take to protect ourselves and others. But you know what? Let's also allow ourselves to hope and anticipate that change for the better is on the spring horizon. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any reportable actions from closed session?
No, Madam Mayor, the direction was given, but no reportable actions were taken. Thank you.
We have two presentations this evening, which are related. The first from our Desert Healthcare District and Foundation, which will be followed by a presentation on the homelessness collaboration received from CVAG. So, Mr. Barzaga, I think the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor. I believe Ms. Carmina Zavala, who's one of our directors, will introduce herself first as our newest director.
Good afternoon. My name is Carmina Zavala. I'm a mental health professional and then, like Dr. Barzaga said, the newest member of the Desert Healthcare District board director as of November 3rd. So go ahead.
Thank you very much.
And significantly representing the city of Palm Desert.
Yes, Mayor Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to speak before you. I believe this is a brief introduction, very especially to your new city manager. And welcome, Todd, to this wonderful city of Palm Desert. I live in the neighbor city of Palm Springs. And for many, many years, the Desert Healthcare District has been working with all the cities here in the Valley to support in every city in many aspects related to healthcare. The mission of the Desert Healthcare District is to achieve optimal health at all stages of life for all district residents. And we do this by connecting Coachella Valley residents to health and wellness services and programs through philanthropy and resources, health facilities, information, community education, and public policy work. We were formed in 1945 to build Desert Regional Medical Center, which is one of the 3 hospitals we have in the Coachella Valley. For many, many years, we were much smaller than what we are now. And the reason for that was that there was another hospital in India when the healthcare district was formed. But in 2018, our voters passed a new law to expand the reach of the Desert Healthcare District to now cover the entire Coachella Valley. So our borders go from Desert Hot Springs to at the west and to all the way to the northwest corner of the Salton Sea. There is a significant larger population that we are serving with this expansion. We're very proud of doing this. We have been supporting for the last 20 years the nonprofit community of the Coachella Valley, helping those that are faced with acute and chronic disease and illness, those that are faced with homelessness, domestic abuse. We have provided access to medical care, dental care, mental health services. And we have also helped build a stronger healthcare workforce and infrastructure here in the Coachella Valley. We're right now working to complete a community health needs assessment and a long-term health improvement plan that is going to give us the roadmap for the next 20 years. And what we anticipate over the next 20 years is retaining our hospital as one of the most valuable community assets that we have in the Coachella Valley. And additionally, the district will build a stronger, nimbler, and more equitable healthcare system to help lift people out of poverty and provide healthcare to those who will face disease and illness with great dignity. So I would love to have the opportunity to meet one-on-one with you and give you more background about our work, what we do and how we do it, and explore ways in which we can work together and continue supporting the wonderful community of the Coachella Valley and the beautiful city of Palm Desert. Thank you.
And thank you for that offer, which we'll be sure to take you up on. And thank you for the critical work that the Desert Healthcare District does. It's such an asset to be part of this recognition that health does not observe city boundaries, and that a valley-wide collaboration is essential to all of our health. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And
Yes, please.
thank you so much. I just wanted to thank Dr. Barzaga for coming and sharing this information with us. And I certainly want to thank Ms. Zavala for taking on what will be is a formidable task. And we appreciate you representing our area and doing the good work that needs to be done. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Conrado and Carmina and the Desert Healthcare District for the leadership and the investment that they have made in fighting homelessness. It's been a true inspiration and a motivator, literally, for others to jump in and join the fight, if you will. I just can't thank you enough for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabby.
Yes, Abby.
And if I can jump in, Mayor, I wanted to give my thank you as well. The Desert Healthcare District has done so much for so many years now for the Coachella Valley. And when I was working for Cal State San Bernardino, we had so many students that had scholarships that came from the Desert Healthcare District. And my sister was one of those students that was able to get her bachelor's in nursing in the Coachella Valley with essentially hardly any debt, thanks to the generosity and the vision of making sure that these careers are offered to our local students. And, you know, I speak for myself as homegrown, but I know that Carmina is homegrown as well. In fact, we used to ride the school bus together many years ago. So it's good to see people from the community that know the needs firsthand rising to places that they can speak for what the community needs. So many congratulations, Carmina.
Thank you, Karina.
And thank you. And we expect to see much of you as we work together on future projects. This provides, of course, a perfect segue to hear more about CFAG's collaborative approach to homelessness, which you have supported in such vital ways. And I see CFAG names making their appearance. Welcome, Mr. Kirk and Mr. Cox.
And I believe Greg Rodriguez is on his way in as well. So I just, Mayor, I just checked in. I don't, is it now our turn to roll?
It is.
All right. Well, thank you for having us. And I've got a 15-minute presentation. Greg Rodriguez, who you all know with the County of Riverside in the Supervisor's Office, and associated with CVAG 2, will be here to help address questions. And Tom Cox, who does all the work, along with a few others on our homeless program, is here to help address any questions you might have. I get the pleasure of giving you a broad overview and some early successes on our homeless program. I know one of you has seen this presentation, Mr. Jonathan, 3 times, maybe 4, I don't know, 5, 10. It might feel like 10 times, Sabby, but it's only probably been 2 or 3. And Mayor, I know you've seen it too. But I'll try to make it quick and easy, and we'll get a run through right now. 1 second.
It's a topic of keen interest to the full council and to our residents.
Well, let me share with you what we're doing. CV 200. Second here. I'm going to give you a little background on the program, where we started and where we are today, how we started this program January 1st, how our program relates to various other programs, and particularly the shelter system in the Coachella Valley, and where we're headed next. Housing first. In the beginning, and some of you remember this, 12, 13 years ago, there was a lot of concern in Indio in particular, but also Coachella, that all of the shelters were in that part of the valley, and so were social services. As a result, a lot of homeless people were in the eastern part of the Coachella Valley. In fact, there were problems in Cathedral City or Palm Springs. Sometimes our police would ship the person or the problem to Indio. And as a result, our valley came together and said, we need to do more in the western part of the Coachella Valley. The county led the effort with CVAG. Roy's was named after, of course, former mayor of Palm Desert and Supervisor Roy Wilson. And Roy's Desert Resource Center was born. And Jewish Family Services in the Desert was hired to run that program for 8 or 9 years. And we literally helped thousands of people. And of course, your own council member, Jonathan, has been a member of the homeless committee since he got on the council and was chair. And you remember those days, council member, of winding down the operation of Roy's. And one of the reasons we did so is because we cited Roy's, we together cited Roy's in North Palm Springs, and 1/3 of our budget was caught up in transportation. We were moving people back and forth every day between Roy's and Palm Springs and Cathedral City, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. In 2017, Jewish Family Services said, so long, partner. We are done with running the program. We want to move on. And at the same time, the County of Riverside indicated that they'd like to use that property for a long-term mental health care facility. And in fact, the property was repurposed and opened up last year as a 90-bed long-term mental health care facility. So 2017, we closed the door to Roy's and opened the door to a new concept for me anyway. And I think it was even for our chairman at the time, Mr. Jonathan, Housing First. And what is Housing First? Well, we hired Path of Life Ministries to run the program for a few years, and Desert Healthcare District, who you just heard from, who's been a wonderful partner, hired Barbara Poppy, a renowned national expert on Housing First, to shape the program. And the program really involves taking homeless clients, whether you're chronically homeless, you're relatively new on the street because of a healthcare emergency, or perhaps you lost your job, or you're a family in need and ended up on the street. Regardless of the type of homeless client you are, the idea is put a roof over your head. Deal with your basic needs of shelter. And after you put a roof over your head, we work with you on wraparound services. We help you with jobs and identification. We address drug use and alcohol abuse, mental health issues, and we might even work with you on your criminal background. And yet, back when we operated Roy's with Jewish Family Services of the Desert, we did it exactly the opposite. If you had a serious mental health, a serious drug abuse problem, we didn't let you in the door. If you had 3 or 4 personalities, I only have 2, but if you had 3 or 4, we also didn't let you in the door. And if you had a criminal background, of course we didn't let you in the door. We didn't want you to mingle with 100 other clients. So guess who we helped? Certainly families. And certainly those that are on the street for the first time. But the chronically homeless, a lot of them we wouldn't let in the door. And frankly, the chronically homeless, if you ask them to go to a shelter today, most of them might say no. They don't want to be in a shelter. So the chronically homeless, of course, are the picture of homelessness. They're the people that your constituents pay a lot of attention to, in part because the police services, fire services, emergency services are occupied with addressing their needs or their problems. They're the ones that are in our emergency room often for minor issues. They are the ones that are in the front of your commercial areas or behind them. And they're the ones that constituents complain about. And I show your colleague from Cathedral City's picture, but I could have put any one of you up here because when your clients complain to you about homelessness, it's usually about the chronically homeless, the people that we weren't helping at Roy's. So Jewish Family Services of the Desert was our first nonprofit we worked with, and then we worked with Path of Life on Housing First. We made progress in the first couple years of the program, but we said so long to Path of Life Ministries at the end of 2020. And we started an in-house program at CVAG. And for those that know me, know that I kicked and screamed and said, no way did I want to hire staff and run a homeless program, but here we are, we have done it. And we've done it largely because I've got the trust of this man, or I trust in this man, Tom Cox. He's on the line with us. He comes from the field. He's been with us now for a year and a half. And last fall, he started going around to each of your police departments and sheriff's departments and saying, who are the chronically homeless in your community? And we were supposed to develop a list of 100 by name people that we plan on getting off the streets. Well, by the time you got through a few of our cities, that list grew. And now we call it a CV 200 list. 200 people valley-wide that are chronically homeless on our streets year after year, consuming a lot of our energy, attention, and frankly, public money. So we have that list. We started our program in-house January 1st, and we hired 3 others to run the program for us. Anise is the supervisor, and she runs a team of Stephanie and Ivan, who both have experience in this field. Our results after 40 days. I'm going to characterize our results in 2 different ways. One is through rapid resolution. I call this the easy fixes. And in the first 40 days, we have 3 people off of our list of 200 that have now had a successful exit, meaning generally they're in permanent housing. Tom Cox, can you share this woman's story?
Yeah, this is P. She was on the CV 200 list. She was living in her car for 3 years until it was repossessed. P was unable to make the payments because she was on a fixed income. We used our rapid resolution funding to get her car back and to pay a deposit and first month's rent for her to move into her senior low-income apartment.
Crisis stabilization units. It's a fancy word for apartments. Generally, these are apartments. In some cases, they are hotel rooms, but they're generally apartments spread throughout the community where we use that to provide a roof over somebody's head. And we don't ask questions. Once we get a yes from one of these chronically homeless clients, they're willing to go into an apartment. We have no conditions. You could bring your pets, your partners, or your property. And we say you could be up in there for 90 days and you don't have to move on to any sort of program. You don't have to be a part of drug and alcohol counseling. There are no conditions. We just figure if we can get them under a roof, we could help them, and we do. In fact, we've helped 16 people in the first 40 days. 16 more people off of the list of 200. Tom, can you share the story of this gentleman?
Yeah, this is H. He was a veteran and was homeless for 40 years. He was in our crisis stabilization unit until we were able to get his veteran paperwork finalized. H has since moved into a senior low-income apartment.
We have another category. Unfortunately, this is the they died on us category. We brought them into one of our units and their health was so bad that ultimately they died. And it reminds us that we have to get out to these chronically homeless people sooner rather than later. A lot of them have chronic health issues that it's more important for us to get them off the street and help them. So all in, on our list of 200, when we started January 1st, 20 are already off that list. It's a big deal. Applause, thank you, thank you, thank you. Really, Tom Cox and team, thank you, Mayor. It's a big deal. And I pick on our former chairman, Jonathan, because he's been through as many reports as I have with nonprofits, with the county, talking about how many hours of outreach and how many contacts and how many inputs and showers and meals. I'm only focused on this. How many people are we going to get off the street into permanent housing? And we're going to focus on that. And I'm going to report that every quarter to the homeless committee. If I need to come back to your council and report it directly to all of you, I will too. But we're going to focus on results, getting people off the street and permanent solutions. Our niche. I want to point this out. Housing first is not the solution always. Shelters are needed too. And the shelter system is great for those that are perhaps newly homeless, certainly families. And we know they're not great perhaps for some of the chronically homeless. And that's where Housing First comes in. And if you compare these 2 programs, I want to be honest with you. We're not going to help very many people. You will go to the shelters today and say, how many people did you help in the first 40 days? And they'll say thousands or 1,000 shelters, 1,000 showers, 10,000 meals, hundreds of bed nights. And I will say it's a success to get 20 people off the street. It's a different sort of metric. And guess what? Budgets Call our budget $1 million a year. Each of the shelters that I know about have a budget many times that every year. Ours is a relatively small part of the overall solution. And guess what? Our cost per client takes a lot of money to get the chronically homeless off the street. We're putting every client just about into an apartment and then working with them for several months to get them permanent housing. But it's not always about cost. It's about benefit. And the cost to society of these frequent users of government services is astronomical. Ask your police, ask the emergency room staff. It's the chronically homeless that are consuming a lot of taxpayer dollars. Desert Sun Analysis a couple years ago looked at our Housing First program that, again, had its challenges, but one thing I'd say, and I'm proud of, with Path of Life Ministries is successful exits. The shelter systems in the Coachella Valley do a great job of helping people temporarily, and lots of them. They don't do such a good job necessarily, including Roy's, of putting people into permanent housing. Our Housing First program, under Path of Life, 2/3 of the people we touched and put into permanent housing. Tom Cox and his team, I expect to meet or beat that statistic. The people we bring into our housing units, I want to find permanent housing and stay in permanent housing. We're going to track that. Do they stay in those units? Looking forward, we're going to build on the success of the first 40 days. Every time somebody comes into one of our apartments, leaves to permanent housing, or perhaps leaves because they're fed up and they want to go back to the street, and we're going to measure that too. We have an empty apartment and we're going to fill it. And sometimes we're going to find people that aren't on our list. We've already worked with some of the cities and say, well, we missed 1 or 2 people. We will add to the CV 200 list. We already have. Tom Cox, what's the story of this gentleman?
This is M. He was on the CV 200 list. We worked with Deputy Nelson and Alex and Donna from the Palm Desert homeless team and the county. M is in a unit, and we just heard word today that M has been approved for his housing voucher. So we're working on finding him a place. More to be determined, but M should be housed very shortly.
Councilman Jonathan, since you've seen this program now 10 times, and I've given it 20 times, one thing I like is every time I share these stories, they get better. Tom Cox, when he showed me this image to begin with, he said, we just placed him in one of our stabilization units, hearing that next time I give this, M may be in permanent housing, a Palm Desert chronically homeless person. What's the story here, Tom?
This is a couple from Indio. They're both working, and we're working on finding their housing for them. We're searching for housing. More to be determined, but we're hoping to have them housed very soon permanently.
And as they move out of our units, we're going to fill those units again. We also got a grant from the county through an HHAP grant, $250,000 to convert this tired old shuttle bus that we owned and we ran at Roy's into something like this, a mobile access center. We've got temporary funding to pay for 2 full-time employees to operate it. And we're going to use that to get out to the encampments and street outreach, because not as a big surprise to anybody listening and watching this, having an office does little good when you're working with homeless people. We need to be out in the street. Desert Healthcare District. You've already heard from the Desert Healthcare District. We are in a true partnership with them, and I'm proud to say that that partnership continues. Carmina and Conrado didn't spill the beans and ruin my slideshow. On Tuesday night, they agreed to continue the matching program with CVAG and all of our cities and county. They're providing $500,000 to the Housing First program. They saw this this update on the program. They seem to be happy with the progress. And what we shared with them is that with our version of this, we are going to focus on emergency rooms. And we've been in contact with all 3 hospitals. We know the hospitals can't give us names of individuals because of privacy issues, but we can work with them on discharge planning and respite care and make us the first referral for homeless, chronically homeless leaving their emergency room offices. So next steps, we're going to build on our early success. I'm not sure we're going to have that pace of success. We benefited, frankly, from this being a continuation of the program. Some of the people we helped were in our units because of Path of Life. They were already working with us to transition the program to one focused on the chronically homeless. We're going to continue to ask that cities and county budget, as Palm Desert has, $100,000 per year. Thank you very much. We're going to implement the grant for the Mobile Access Center. And again, we're going to focus on that emergency room and hospital aspect of this and continue the partnership with Desert Healthcare District. With that, Mayor, members of the council, I apologize for those that have seen this 2 or 10 or now I think Sabby will say that he saw it 20 times, but you know, math is not his strong suit. So I'd be happy to address any questions that you might have.
It gets better each time. And I love hearing the updates. I asked Greg one question when I first heard this presentation, and I'll ask it again because it pertains to something of possible interest to others. All of the Coachella Valley cities help to fund Roy's, and now that it's a county facility, I do understand that Coachella Valley residents in need of its services receive priority. Could you speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And a little bit of a clarification that one of the issues with Roy's was that not all of the cities were participating. So there wasn't a steady funding stream. With that being said, it's a great question. And just to clarify a little bit more about Roy's, Tom was right. It opened in August, a month earlier than what we were pushing for, as a 90-bed augmented board and care facility. What that does do with our whole mental health continuum in the county is help with that throughput. So being able to get individuals out of our urgent care facilities and into a more structured environment. And we know that the vast majority of a lot of those clients within the county's mental health system are homeless individuals. So it is a key component. To your point, Mayor, is yes, we made it clear, the supervisor especially, with my urging as well, that if we were going to convert this, that the focus did need to be on the prioritization of Coachella Valley residents, and that is true to this case. And once we get out of this whole not being able to go and visit anywhere, happy to coordinate with the county for you to tour the facility. We were lucky enough to tour it when it first opened, and it's an amazing asset to this region and to the county.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councilmember Jonathan and then Councilmember Nestante.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom, it's true. You keep getting better with practice. This was the best one yet, so congratulations. Of course, it's an easy story to sell because it is so successful. By the way, Roy's was supported by 3 of the 9 Valley cities, and we transitioned to where all of the Valley cities support the current program, plus the county, plus the tribe, plus the Desert Healthcare District. So I take that as a pretty good report card because cities in particular vote with their budget. I do, one of the hardest things about the learning curve with homelessness is the language, right, Greg? I mean, wow. So I want to make it clear when Tom uses that phrase chronically homeless, we are talking about unsheltered homeless. This is what most people think of when they say homeless. It's the people they see out on the streets. Ironically, there's also sheltered homeless. Don't get me going on that. California, by the way, has 50% half of the entire country's unsheltered population resides in this state. So when we all get frustrated at a lack of visible progress, please understand that it's a mammoth issue and a mammoth task and a mammoth problem to solve, but we're doing it. And I'm so proud of the Coachella Valley, of CVAG, and particularly Palm Desert as an active partner, in Housing First, which is truly kind of the state-of-the-art, innovative, impactful approach to addressing homelessness, because it is one of the few methods that has the objective of removing those unsheltered homeless from the street and finding them not only shelter, but services that will keep them off the street for the rest of their life and hopefully enable them to have a better life, which also addresses resident concerns, business concerns that, whether it's compassion for the homeless or whether it's annoyance with the visible impacts of homelessness, the goal is the same, which is to reduce homelessness. So I'm so proud. And of course, Palm Desert does its share with CVAG and participating Valleywide, but we also fund 2 behavioral resource officers. And thanks to Chris Gary's creativity, that is funded through a grant. And then we have other partners in the process, our police, our fire, the COPS program, code enforcement, parks. It really is a massive effort. And I think it's important for our residents, and hopefully they see this, to understand that we are far from ignoring the issue. Quite the opposite. We are all in. And I think that is part of the reason that we are having some success. But thank you again to Tom and Greg and the other Tom and CVAG for just putting this whole thing together. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Mayor, could I add something that I think was an important element, particularly with Chairman of our Homeless Committee, Jonathan's leadership. One of the things that we're proud of is we're not operating a charity. We aren't. We are not enabling. We are focusing on long-term sustainable solutions. And under the chairman, we actually did a self-assessment to ask ourselves, when we touch a client, find a client, and progress them through our program, what income, and homeless people generally have an income, do they start with? And what do they end up with? And Hark ran that study for us, didn't he, Chairman? 2.5, 3 years ago. And the starting income was about $500 per month. The ending income was $1,500 per month. That allows homeless clients to help themselves. I wish I could tell you that every one of them got a great job with Microsoft. They didn't. Oftentimes, we're just allowing people to find and apply for programs that they're already eligible for. But that's still a big deal. It helps keep them sustainable and off the street. And I think the chairman had a big part in shaping our program in that direction. Chairman Emeritus. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Nastante.
Yeah, well, this segues into my question, and the timing couldn't be better. I just today had a constituent call me. She's been caring for a 72-year-old homeless man who's living on the streets off of Dr. Carrion Boulevard and not quite sure where to go, how to get him help. And so I assured her I would look into it today or tomorrow. And here we go. We have this wonderful presentation. And what is the best way? What is the pipeline to try to get this individual help? She's giving him money. The grocery store is giving him food. And I know he must be eligible for some type of program, but he's not accessing any of them.
Yeah, and
on the street.
Funny, our team was just discussing this. Get a hold of me. You all have my contact information. Give me contact information of either the homeless person or somebody caring for them or helping them. We will cross-check with our list. And I'm going to be frank with all of you. One of the reasons I'm giving this presentation is to share with you that we can't do it all. Our program represents probably 10%, 5% of all homeless activities in the Coachella Valley. What we can do, though, is if we can't help him or her, we will find somebody that can. And I still can't promise you that they will accept help. That's another aspect of this. We always assume if we just got out there to help them, some people will not accept help and we can't force them. But track me down.
Sorry, Councilmember, if I could add on to that too, is this has been one of the challenging things about communicating how people access services. And CVAG has been in conversations with the Desert Healthcare District. Again, another kudos to the district about cvhip.com is a great website to figure out what services can be accessed. Also 211 through the county can also link those as well. So just for you as council members and for the public to know that those two resources, 211 and
I'm writing it down. 211.
211 and cvhip.com, or it might be .org, but that's an online database portal that the district has funded and now has partnered with 211 and United Way of Inland Valleys to really provide some linkage to services. But to Tom Kirk's point, if you're not getting an answer from those, you call either him, you can call me, or you can call Tom Cox.
And let me ask this, because I see Chris Gary is also elevated to participate if needed. My expectation is that if that homeless person was in Palm Desert instead of in Indio, that we might have some additional local contact points for you, Councilmember Nestante, since Palm Desert is additionally beyond what's just been presented, funding to outreach workers. So, Mr. Gary, could you address that?
Mayor Kelly, absolutely. So as you had mentioned, we have two additional outreach workers, and they are a county resource, and they actually work for the county. So they have a plethora of resources, and we also work together very collaboratively with CVAG. So I imagine between both agencies, we can find a resource if available.
So if that homeless person were to be in Palm Desert, to whom should we supply that information?
Mayor Kelly, they could call myself, or they can. We have a few ways to do it. We have on our citywide app. There's a homeless assistance application. Just as well, we have a homeless help hotline phone number, and I don't recall the number off the top of my head. And just as well, we have an email address. I believe it's homelesshelp@cityofpalmdesert.org. And any one of those will be directed to the appropriate resource.
Terrific, because I think those members of the public listening in would like to know the easiest way to access help. And if that can be found on our website, that's key. That's a key takeaway. So thank you. Other questions? Yes, Councilmember Quintanilla.
Not a question, but a comment of support and appreciation. And I have referred individuals specifically to Chris, and this was right around the time that we had the coldest night of the year. And within just a few days, the friend that reached out to me, a constituent in Palm Desert, had housing had been secured. And so now he is gainfully employed with a job that offers benefits and is very appreciative for the program. And he said he's working on a way to express his proper thank you. So these programs absolutely do work, and anybody that's listening that knows of someone they want to refer, please do. That's the first step. Let them know that we are here, we do care, there are resources, and we want to help them.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to say I'm so proud of Palm Desert for a couple of years ago for going out and taking that extra step to have those two social workers out there. And thank you, Councilmember Jonathan, for really making that go. And so often when we hear about homelessness, what we hear about is what it costs financially. And that's compelling. But then when you understand the humanity aspect of it, that is so much more compelling, because how can any of us live where we live and go to bed at night knowing that there are people out there who are either too hot or too cold or too hungry and on the streets. And this collective compassion I'm seeing from this group is really inspiring. And thank you for all the work you're doing. It means a lot. I wonder, because this is always an issue that comes up, and I think it's something that people need to understand, and it's the issue of giving money to the homeless. And I'd like one of you to address that. I know Sabby has in the past, but I think it really is important to know this.
I'm glad to take that, especially in about 15 minutes, I have to leave for a presentation in Palm Springs. And on this very issue, and basically, you know, Mayor Pro Tem Harnick, it's the enabling environment. And, you know, it sounds cold, but when someone can be in the valley and have a meal literally 3 times a day sometimes, or money on the side of the corner, or a shower, they can feel comfortable living on the streets and still utilizing a high utilizer of our services, you know, county, cities, state. And it's a hard thing to get over because we all do have compassion. We don't want to see people down, but it's not the way to really help a person like that. And to Tom Kirk's point, you know, Barbara Poppy has done extensive research on this, and just, you know, myself being in the trenches and dealing with this, and Savvy knows this, and both Toms know this, is that, you know, you want to help, but we really want to help to what's going to benefit that person in the long run. We want them to have a home. We want them to have healthcare. We want them to have mental health services. We want them to hopefully get a job. So it's, you know, we do encourage people that, you know, if you want to help, you know, don't necessarily give them money, give them a referral card to either CV Housing First or a county program or something else that's really going to help.
Thank you, Greg.
Any other comments or questions? This has been a very fruitful presentation, and thank you so much to everyone, most certainly Councilmember Jonathan, who has been our steadfast representative to the Homelessness Committee and led as its chair during the critical formation of this program.
Mayor, if I could also add that he's being humble, but Councilmember Jonathan serves on the Board of Governance at the county level with myself and has been an incredible voice for the Valley and for Palm Desert. He knows the strategic planning we're going through right now that we believe will elevate the county services to an even higher level to work in collaboration and partnership. So I want to thank him for his support of the county efforts as well as his leadership for the Coachella Valley.
Thank you for that addition, and thank you for this terrific presentation. You may go to Palm Springs. We have 2 proclamations this evening, and I'd like to take up the Unity Proclamation first. I have some brief but very critical words to say as a preface to this proclamation. Last evening, news reports appeared about hateful acts at a Palm Desert restaurant, mocking the owner because of her Asian ethnicity. This is completely unacceptable. Behavior such as this does not represent the values of Palm Desert. I repeat for emphasis, behavior such as this does not represent the values of Palm Desert. Today, I have heard from scores of residents condemning hateful acts and expressing their complete solidarity with Asian American, Pacific Islander members of our community. Last year, this city adopted Unite Palm Desert as our mantra and our guiding principle. In the last 12 months, the primary focus of this initiative has been holding up those most affected by the pandemic with critical support. But Unite Palm Desert is about far more than economic support. It encourages our whole community to embrace the principles of mutual respect expressed by the City of Palm Desert in Resolution 2018-09, in which we affirmed that this city will not tolerate prejudice, racism, bigotry, hatred, bullying, and violence toward any groups within our community. We abhor hateful acts. A hateful act toward any person in Palm Desert diminishes us all. And we embrace that the diversity of varied experiences, perspectives, and languages is one of the greatest assets of this community. Public Health Week is approaching, and it could not be more timely to affirm that much more than physical well-being contributes to the public health. And so this evening, all members of the council will join in presenting a proclamation that implores us to recommit ourselves to achieving a fully healthy community, one in which people of all ethnicities, identities, and backgrounds consistently enjoy equal respect. And I will share an image of this proclamation as we all participate in reading it, and I will begin. Whereas the Unite Palm Desert campaign was launched to encourage city-led mutual support during the pandemic, preserving the health of all our residents and businesses. And
whereas since its inception, Unite Palm Desert has supported over 300 businesses with over $3 million of easily forgivable loans, supporting our unique businesses and our hospitality sector during restricted operations. And
whereas Unite Palm Desert, with the collaboration of the Coachella Valley Economic Partnership, has assisted over 600 city businesses and nonprofits with personal protective equipment to support safe operation, including more than 120,000 face masks, 4,000 face shields, and 1,000 gallons of hand sanitizer. And
whereas through Unite Palm Desert, the city has authorized up to $500,000 for assistance in covering rent for those with lost income during the pandemic. And
whereas Unite Palm Desert has included $513,000 of support for nonprofit partners who are addressing food insecurity and other basic needs during the pandemic. And
whereas, consistent with Unite Palm Desert, the city has collaborated with Curative to provide cost-free COVID-19 testing and support the public health. And
whereas reports of nearly 3,800 hate incidents against Asian American and Pacific Islanders nationwide over the last year, nearly doubling of racist and anti-Semitic and anti-LGBTQ propaganda, remind us that unity and mutual support are values which require constant attention. And
we'll swap. Whereas Palm Desert celebrates our ethnic diversity as a strength, noting sadly that some Asian American Pacific Islander communities who are prominent in caregiving professions have had much higher than average rates of COVID-19 infections and deaths in our country. And
whereas the first full week of April is celebrated as Public Health Week, an occasion for renewed commitment to create a healthy nation for all.
now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kathleen Kelly, Mayor of the City of Palm Desert, California, along with the entire City Council, recognize the week of April 4 through 10, 2021 as Public Health Week in the City of Palm Desert, encouraging all residents to embrace Unite Palm Desert and the mutual support that will enable successful conclusion of the current pandemic, including respect for all people of all ethnicities, identities, and backgrounds. And before our second proclamation, do any of my colleagues wish to add a comment? Councilmember Quintanilla and then Councilmember Nastante.
thank you, Mayor. I am very aware of these incidents that have been growing for some time. That's why it was so critical for me 2 weeks ago to present the request for the proclamation. And this personally, as an English learner, was something that spoke to me as somebody who's been told, learn English, speak English, go back to your country. These are things that I have heard, that my family has heard. And to those people that will still say these things in 21st century America, you know, when somebody mocks an accent because they don't hear English spoken properly, to me, I hear hope, I hear hard work, I hear determination, and that's what an accent means to me. So when someone says, go back to your country, I remind everyone, this is Cahuilla land. Before this was California, this was the land of the Cahuilla. And when someone says, speak English, this is America, I remind them that before California was Mexico, it was Cahuilla land, and we don't speak the Cahuilla language. We say Taquits, it's Taquits, but we say Taquits. And so we need to work on inclusion, meaning more than just waving the flag. And when people say all lives matter, this shows that they don't. Because if all lives mattered truly equally, we wouldn't be having to address issues of hate, disparity, and personal attacks.
Thank you. Councilmember Nastante.
Yes, well, I have a slightly different outlook on it. And I just want to thank you, Mayor Kelly, for hearing my concerns. And I think you did a great job on this proclamation, making it be all inclusive and for all humanity. Thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
thank you. When I heard about what had happened with Stella, it was so disappointing. I'm sure Sabi has known the family for a long time. Their children graduated Palm Desert High. They've been great supporters of the high school. They've been great community members, and it's a great family, and they're wonderful people. And I know Stella well. And to hear it was just, it's hard for me to even understand how anybody could say it to the caliber of human being that Stella is. Additionally, to make it even more ironic in some ways, I have my girlfriend yesterday who was born in the Philippines, who worked hard, who went through all the proper channels, who did all the studying, and yesterday became a citizen of the United States. And it's such a conflict in thinking that something like this could happen. Somebody worked so hard to be here, and then something like that happens. And it's disappointing. And it does not reflect the values of Palm Desert. That is absolutely everything we are not. We thank them for bringing all their richness to our community, and everyone making our community that much better by just such great diversity. Thank you.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. So this may surprise some people, but I'm also an immigrant to this country and also an English learner. And also the recipient of hate throughout my life. But, you know, I always felt that those who hate and do these bad things to other people do not represent our city, the Coachella Valley, or our country. I think we are great at each of those levels, and we will fight and overcome those exceptions that choose to hate. I want to thank you, Mayor, for your comments before and after the proclamation, as well as the broad proclamation that addressed the hate that exists on so many levels for so many different types of people, whether it's race, ethnicity, economic level, party affiliation, gender identification, sexual preference. Unfortunately, the list is long. And I find myself saying I'm proud again to be a part of Palm Desert, a city that does the right thing and doesn't stand for people doing the wrong thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And thankfully, our second proclamation gives us the opportunity to further celebrate the diversity of our community. Greek Americans who are residents of Palm Desert called my attention that we have the opportunity to recognize the 200th anniversary of Greek independence and to share with them all of the positives that are represented by this occasion. So I see two representatives of that community have joined us. Would you please introduce yourselves?
My name is Father Theodore Pantels. I'm the pastor of St. George Greek Orthodox Church. And Honorable Mayor Kathleen Kelly, and members of the Palm Desert City Council. We at St. George of the Desert Greek Orthodox Church truly appreciate the recognition of Greece's 200 years of independence given us by the city of Palm Desert. This honor from the Palm Desert City Council is an inspiration for all of us to safeguard the gift of freedom. God created us with free will so that we can express love, and God loves us all. Under the banner of freedom, we join in the efforts of our civic leaders to love all people at all times, for all are created to be loved by God equally and to love one another equally, while at the same time cherishing the unique gifts and talents of every individual. With God's grace, we will continue the efforts to maintain the blessing of freedom in our country and in our city of Palm Desert. And we are most grateful for the honor given to us by officially recognizing the 200-year anniversary of Greek independence.
It is our great privilege. And I see that we're also joined by Nicholas Latkovic, who has been kind enough to share perspective on some key issues before us. Nick, do you have anything to share?
Honorable Mayor and City Council, I echo Father's statements 100%, and I think it's truly a privilege that the city was able to make this proclamation. So thank you.
And we are, as I said, extremely grateful that this opportunity was featured for us. So, whereas the people of ancient Greece developed the concept of democracy, in which the supreme power to govern is vested in the people, leading the founders of the United States to draw heavily on the political experience and philosophy of ancient Greece in forming the representative democracy of the United States. And whereas individual American Philhellenes, including future abolitionist Dr. Samuel Gridley Howe, future abolitionist Jonathan Peckham Miller, and George Jarvis traveled to Greece to fight alongside and provide aid to the Greek people in their struggle for independence. And whereas the people of the United States generously sent humanitarian assistance to the people of Greece during their struggle for independence, often through Philhellene committees. And whereas Greece heroically resisted Axis forces at a crucial moment in World War II, forcing Adolf Hitler to change his timeline and delaying the attack on Russia. And whereas Winston Churchill said that if there had not been the virtue and courage of the Greeks, we do not know which the outcome of World War II would have been. And no longer will we say that Greeks fight like heroes, but that heroes fight like Greeks. And whereas the Prime Minister of Greece, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, visited the United States from January 5 to 8, 2020, and held meetings with members of Congress, demonstrating the continued vitality and significance of the United States-Greek relationship. And whereas the Greek-American community has greatly contributed to American society and has helped forge the strong ties between the United States and Greece, and it is proper and desirable for the United States to celebrate March 25, 2021, Greek Independence Day, with the people of Greece, and to reaffirm the democratic principles from which those two great countries were founded. Now, therefore, I, Kathleen Kelly, as mayor of Palm Desert, along with the entire city council, do hereby proclaim today as a celebration of the 200th anniversary of Greek independence in the city of Palm Desert, and extend warm congratulations and best wishes to both the people of Greece and to our Greek American community in Palm Desert. How timely that we're able to present this on Greek Independence Day. So thank you so much for allowing us to celebrate it with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank
And this brings us to non-agenda public comments, an opportunity for the public to speak on issues that are not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes. There were options on the published agenda to give notice of intent to comment. because the Brown Act does not allow the city council to address topics not on the agenda, we won't be able to engage you in conversation, but may be able to very briefly respond or more likely refer a matter to staff for future recommendation. And will the clerk please briefly explain the process for anyone who wishes to speak on a non-agenda item to step forward?
Yes, Mayor. To all, thank you for participating in our remote virtual city council meeting. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation. The agenda posted provided options and instructions for providing public comment at these meetings. Before we begin, please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell or desk phone. This will ensure that we are not hearing any feedback or causing interruption during the meeting. The mayor will invite public comment where appropriate on the agenda. For those on Zoom, if you would like to make a public comment on the Zoom screen, please click on the raised hand button, which is found by hitting the participants tab. If you are using Zoom on your smartphone, tap your screen, look for the more option, and then click on the raised hand button on the screen. For those calling in using the phone line only, you can dial *9 on your keypad to signal that you would like to comment. When called upon by the mayor or the city clerk, you will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Please state your first and last name for the record. Thank you.
I see one hand raised. Would you please elevate Jeremy Whitty for public comment? Mr. Whitty?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, I was looking for my face to pop up. Good evening. My name, Mayor and council members. My name is Jeremy Whitty, and I'm the general manager representing the Coachella Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District, headquartered in Indio, but I'm also a Palm Desert resident. And I want to thank the council for having public comment at the beginning of the meeting, because I've been to many public meetings, and when it's at the end, it can be tough. So I appreciate that. I want to give us a brief update on mosquito control for 2020. As most of you know, as we enjoy the desert year-round, so do mosquitoes. Fortunately, the virus season runs April through November. And as we get prepared for this year, I want to give a brief update on last year. The district has 4 dedicated full-time certified vector control technicians that do service the Palm Desert area. In 2020, we had 29 mosquito samples that were positive in Palm Desert for West Nile virus or St. Louis encephalitis. And when we get those positives, we do an enhanced surveillance and control activities in those affected communities. We also, in the desert, spreading across the desert, but also spreading across the state of California, is this new invasive mosquito Aedes aegypti. And that mosquito, we did have some targeted effort in controlling that mosquito south of Highway 111, between Portola and the mountains. We have a higher activity in that area. And so we were successful in making some area-wide applications and lowering the population, or the Aedes aegypti population, in that area. Give me a second here. Trying to look at a note that's on another screen. The age of multiple screens sometimes doesn't. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So those were successful. I had to switch to a different screen. Anyways, I just want to remind the council, but also city residents, that as we prepare for the coming virus season, it's really important to do your part in your neighborhood and around your home to prevent mosquito breeding. While the district has a well-qualified staff and a robust program, we can't cover every square inch of properties. And with this new mosquito, it loves backyards and places that we just can't always get to. So please check lawn drains. Water and debris can get in there and cause mosquito breeding, especially for this new mosquito that we have in town. Drain potted plants, bird baths, anything that you have around the house that holds water is where these mosquitoes will thrive and bite you and your neighbors. Clean and scrub pet dishes. If you have swimming pools, ornamental ponds, make sure those are working and good order. And if you're outside during dusk and dawn as we get into this mosquito virus season, please take precautions. Wear mosquito repellent, wear long sleeve pants and shirts when possible so you can cover exposed skin to limit those bites. And also make sure that your window screens, both on the doors and on the windows, are in good order because those prevent those mosquitoes from coming in your house and biting you. I do want to take one moment to give special thanks to the Palm Desert City staff. Luis Moctezuma worked with our operations staff last year when we had a mosquito problem actually at City Hall there. David Herman, the city's PIO, who helps the district getting our virus detection notices out, as well as our neighborhood application notifications, which is a big help for us at the district. City code enforcement we work with, Pedro Rodriguez in particular, for helping us with neglected pools and other mosquito problems in the community, and also with City Public Works, who we've had a long positive and collaborative relationship with over the years. And lastly, we do depend on our community to do their part. And in last year in particular, 2 HOAs in the community did a great job in helping our technicians limit and minimize mosquito sources in their community. And that was Montera Community HOA and the Corsican Villas. And with that, that's all I'd like to say. And thank you for your time. And also thank you for your service for the city of Palm Desert.
And thank you for all of that excellent advice, which I see no other, yes, another hand was just raised. Edwin, it disappeared. Ramoran?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Palm Desert Honorable Mayor Kelly, Mayor Pro Tem Harnick, and council members Jonathan Estande and Quintanilla. Sin Caritiria to the 200 years of Greek independence. I'm so glad we're celebrating Greece today as well. Yamas. My name is Edwin Ramoran. For full transparency, I need to let you know I serve currently as a Human Rights Commissioner for the City of Palm Springs, where I was born and raised, and I'm here making public comments as a co-founder and organizer with By Nihon Desert, which focuses on Filipino civic and community engagement here in the Coachella Valley. I was able to send an email public comment, but I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to meet you all via Zoom. I don't know if you could see me, but I could see you very well. So it's good to see you all today. Good afternoon again. I've had the honor of already knowing Councilmember Quintanilla, and I wanted to, since I only have like 3 minutes and I'm already cut into it, I wanted to take this time. Let's have a minute of silence. I would like to have this moment of silence for our brothers and sisters who were killed by racist violence and brutality, and in particular to this week's National Days of Action to remember the working class Korean women and Southeast Asian elders and send their families and loved ones our sincerest condolences. I will say their names and before we observe the minute of silence. Our elder Vicha Ratanapakdi in San Francisco, in Atlanta, Soon Jung Park, Hyun Jung Grant, Sun Cha Kim, Young A Yue, and Xiao Ji Tan, and Dao Yo Feng. Thank you. There are cultural nuances to understanding the diversity and inclusion of Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. I applaud you, Mayor Kelly. I received your press release today statement, and it was issued today, and I shared it with the community of Bayanihan Desert members, and I'm very happy for that. Yet I do agree with Councilmember Quintanilla that it is not enough to just say all lives matter. That erases the cultural specificity and the specific grievances being brought to your particular attention. It's not enough to have sympathy. Working towards empathy will help bring genuine care to a community under attack. Riverside County declared racism a public health crisis. I always feel that white supremacy and privilege should try to avoid centering itself in the grievances of communities of color and our most vulnerable. I've been so fortunate and privileged to be a child born to Ilocano immigrants and a grandson of a mono-generation migrant farm worker from the Philippines during the colonial period. With Bayanihan Desert, we are working on civic and community engagement of Filipino residents in the Coachella Valley. And I want to give a special acknowledgement of the many Asian American and Pacific Islander residents in Palm Deserts. We recognize you and your diversity. We celebrate and uplift your lives. The AAPI community lives here. We work here. We build families and homes here. We shop here. We exist here. I also want to stress one thing. I work. Not only do I do community organizing, but I actually work in the arts, and I love reading quotes. And one quote I want to share with you today is from our late legendary and great American novelist Toni Morrison, and she wrote, "The very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language and you spend 20 years proving that you do. Somebody says that your head isn't shaped properly, so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says you have no art, so you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no kingdoms, so you dredge that up. None of this is necessary. There will always be one more thing," end quote. And I want to sort of just end it with that. I wanted to invite you all to, look up Bayanihan Desert. I'm here. This is our first meeting, except for Councilmember Quintanilla, who I know. But I want to have those channels open. Words and images have power, and I have to say one last thing. I know my time's up, but I just have one last thing to say. Because I know you're applauding Mr. Kirk's presentation at the beginning, but I couldn't help but feel that the caricatures and cartoons of the homeless, especially the chronically homeless image, was fairly offensive and unfair and degrading to I feel to our unhoused community. So please look at the power of words and the power of images. They really matter, and I appreciate you all. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you. I don't see other raised hands. Am I correct in that, clerks?
Correct.
Which brings us to the consent calendar. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent calendar? Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you. I think I drew a full house with this one. City Clerk, ready yourself. Item 9, I'll be voting no. Item 10, I'll be recusing myself. And item 11, I'd like to pull for discussion.
Okay.
So
just one moment. Let me find that one. Mayor Pro Tem Harnick.
Well, I was just going to suggest that we move all but 11. So, and
is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk,
I want to vote no on number 9 as well. So how do I do that?
You just did.
You just by saying no to number 9 and
yes. So Madam Clerk,
Did I just do it correctly?
Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote for the consent minus 11, recording 2 no votes on number 9?
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye, and I think that includes my recusal on item 10.
that is correct.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries on a 5-0, with the exception of item number 9, with a 3-2 vote, with Council members Jonathan and Nastandi voting no, and Mr. Councilman Jonathan recusing himself from item 10.
And on item 11, Councilmember Jonathan, do you need a staff report or do you have a specific question?
No, thank you, Mayor. In the interest of time, I think we all got the staff report, so I just have some questions. And hopefully we can keep it brief. I know it's been a longer meeting than some of us anticipated. So number one, I'm trying to understand the amount of the contract is $92,000. We're taking, and by the way, hello, Mr. Bowman. Nice to see you. We're taking $85,000 or we're receiving as a matching grant. So I couldn't understand, is the project twice that amount? Is it the 92 plus the 85, or is the 85 reimbursing a part of the 92?
It would be a reimbursement up to 85 from SBA 21.
For the 92. So if we're lucky, our out of pocket might be 7.
Plus we have, council member, the engineering contract that council previously awarded, that is also eligible for the reimbursement.
Okay. Next question. Your staff report indicates that we spend $49,750 to do a project design. Am I misreading that, or did we spend $50,000 to do a $90,000 to design a $90,000 construction project?
You are correct that we spent almost $50,000 to finish the design of the project. There was a lot of work that had to be done to finalize the plans, which includes relocating loop detectors at intersections. So that's a lot of traffic engineering design that needs to be done. And for a small project of this size, it's not uncommon to see the engineering cost be more than the typical 20 to 25%, because you just don't get that volume discount, if you will, for engineering versus construction cost.
Maybe next time we can just eyeball it and paint the stripes and get a jackhammer out there. All right, I'm just kidding. I know we don't do that in city business, but sometimes I wish we could.
Well, because you have to wear orange vest too.
Well, you know what we learn. If you wear an orange vest and one of those protective hats, you can do anything out on the street.
I'm going to push us along.
But we're having such fun. So the final question is, you could push along some of those speakers that went way over 3 minutes, and then we wouldn't be delayed.
Keep going.
So in the interest of time, I do have one more question. And that is, it seems to me that we were going to contract for a consultant, of course, that would look at our bikeways throughout the entire city, kind of similar to what Rancho Mirage did, and develop a broader network and greater connectivity via bicycle throughout the city. That is separate from this. Is that still somewhere on the burner?
It sure is, council member. We received proposals, 4 proposals. We've prepared a staff report and we're sending it to City Council for award.
Woohoo! Thank you, Mayor. Sorry to take up so much time. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve staff's recommendation?
So move. And I'll second that.
Please take the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Harnick,
Yes.
Councilman Jonathan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nastandi,
Yes.
Councilmember Quintanilla,
Aye.
Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Which brings us to mayor and council member reports. and requests for action. I want to preface these with very brief words of explanation for members of the public, because you hear us refer to various committee assignments apart from these full council meetings. And I want to let you know that there are essentially three types of assignments that all of the council members are engaged in. Our city has several committees and commissions that do tremendous spade work in bringing recommendations to council. Each of those has a council member as a liaison. We don't function as a member of that group because we want their independent thought process. So we are there primarily as a communications tool, to a conduit of information back and forth, and often are able to supply information about related work that might be of interest to the committee. Secondly, as we saw this evening, regional work is very, very important to the city because of all those issues that don't pay attention to city boundaries, like homelessness. And your council members participate on a wide array of regional bodies that address homelessness, transportation, economic development, public safety, and conservation. And then lastly, we have the opportunity to voluntarily involve ourselves with additional groups, such as the League of California Cities, which both trains and advocates for local government, and Southern California Association of Governments, which, as our metropolitan planning agency, has a huge impact on regional planning and distribution of funds. So those are the three categories of ways in which we serve. We don't give you a recap every month of everything we do. We just bring you highlights that we expect will be of particular interest to the public. So, Councilmember Quintanilla, do you have highlights for us or requests for action?
I have highlights. I have, let me get to wrote all this out here. Too much to go off the top of my head. All right, first up, I requested staff reach out and call a meeting for the Desert Sands 2x2 meeting with City Council. And I requested that meeting after hearing families were expressed concern about their frustration with hybrid learning. And just as you mentioned, that this is an opportunity to help establish and support communications and be a liaison. So as the saying says, it takes a village, and this was a way to show support to the teachers, administrators, and families alike. And it was lovely to meet the leaders of the school board and the school district and learn of all of the changes that they're making to keep students and staff safe. And so I learned that some of the changes in scheduling were due to a number of teachers and staff that presented medical exceptions. And I have long felt the society, we don't place enough value on teachers and educators, and often asking those frontline essential employees to do more than their fair share. And so our teachers and school staff have risen to the occasion yet again. And so districts are finding creative solutions all across the country to figure out how to cope with this. So my deepest gratitude to all of the staff members and leaders that are finding ways to make this happen, from securing hospital grade filters to shields and placement markers. And the district is investing greatly in safety, and they've even increased the seating capacity to allow students to eat their meals in sufficient space from one another. I was very pleased and to find that Desert Sands was looking ahead to the future even years ago, when they were looking to expand their wireless internet services and are able to provide their own LTE network and supported families through the pandemic. I mentioned that even though parents get get the regular school emails and it gets sent to the home, but there's super neighbors and super aunts and uncles and super grandparents that are part of the village that raise each of those children. So in that support, city staff will be sharing bulletins and updates on social media to remind families of changes, and keep an eye out for upcoming information about a robust summer recovery program to let students get caught up on credits if they failed courses. And the meal distribution will be shifting from a Monday-Wednesday program to a once-a-week pickup on Wednesdays only that will issue 7 days worth of meals. So those are some of the changes, again, just to ensure that we're informing the community. And I had the pleasure of meeting Mrs. Jonathan virtually and look forward to other collaborations. And I also had the opportunity to meet with the McCallum Theater Education Policy Committee. And that was very interesting to find that the partnership with Riverside County promoted their online series to 23 school districts, serving approximately 433,000 students. And normally, in a typical year before the pandemic, they would serve about 20,000 students and teachers annually through their field trip series. And now that's shifted to an online series, and they were able to serve over 40,000 students that participated in their outreach programs. And that also includes our local 3 school districts and Morongo Unified in the High Desert. They just recently launched their online series on Monday of last week, and they've got performances that are scheduled through May. And after piloting a virtual version of their aesthetic education program, they are now ready to pass that on to 25 partnership schools, and they've served 189 classrooms and close to 6,000 students with that activity. So those are my reports.
Councilmember Jonathan.
Thank you, Mayor. That was a good segue, Councilmember Quintanilla. You definitely met my better half, and you don't have to nod your head so energetically, but I would agree with you. No request for action, just to update council. Our city manager, Mayor Pro Tem Harnick, and I serve on the board of Priority 1 Coachella Valley, which the city also supports financially. And as you're aware, the primary mission of P1CV is to promote the city of Palm Desert as the next standalone campus for Cal State University campus, so we can better serve, all the residents of the Coachella Valley and beyond, and especially the East Valley that completely lack access to higher education. Why am I bringing this up? Because it's kind of a momentous week. On Monday, I think, Jan, we met with Dr. Zhu and the provost, and shared with them the vision for Priority 1 Coachella Valley, and hopefully brought them in as supportive partners. And then the other momentous event was that, this is a very broad-based effort from throughout the Coachella Valley. So it was decided a couple months back to form an advisory committee. That advisory committee had its kickoff meeting, the first meeting on Wednesday. And I'm so proud that the composition of that committee is very broad, very diversified in all sorts of ways, and truly represents the varying interests that have a need for this campus. So I think that the Coachella Valley is very well represented and very energetically represented in our effort to bring in Cal State University Palm Desert as soon as possible. Jan, did I leave anything out? Maybe when it's in your turn, you can fill it in if I did. Thank you.
And it's her turn.
I'll assure you of this, there is no shortage of passion on those meetings. So it's exciting. It's going in the right direction, I believe. And thank you for all of that information. This week, I attended the CalCog, California Council of Governments conference, and which we primarily deal with transportation and all modalities from pedestrians to trains. And we had a lot of discussion. Secretary Fox was involved, and he was really an asset in the conversation, but it was about legislature and policy and culture. We talked about everything from the cost to the fundings to repairs and new infrastructure, which we will be seeing coming probably in the bill after I think they call it ARBA, the 1.9 trillion. The following bill will see a lot of money for infrastructure. And we all know we'd like to see a train here and the grade separations and all those things we're doing. So there's a lot of discussion on how transportation impacts all aspects of our life, from equity to our environment, our air quality, and so on. And I think that is about it. I have one request for action, and that is everyone who celebrates Passover and Easter have a meaningful, joyful, and great celebration with those you care for. And hey, maybe those you don't care for, but make it meaningful.
Perfect. Councilmember Nestante.
Just to briefly go over again, I've been in communication on a regular basis with the sports arena group, specifically Mr. John Bolton. He's one of the senior consultants for the project. And he shared with me that there are studies that have already been done and approved dating back to 2006. And so it should help with the streamlining of bringing this project to fruition. And I'm also of the understanding that they are going to be reaching out to Eric Seha if they haven't already done so this week. I am in support of the sports arena, even though people think it's in Palm Desert. For those listening, it's the North Sphere near the Cal State campus. And I am going to be signing a letter of support for it as myself, a single city council member. I know I don't have the full support of city council, and I just want to give everybody a heads up that I am throwing my support behind the project. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. And I will assure everyone that as mayor and with the mayor pro tem and city manager, we've taken steps to assure that our staff is now in close collaboration with county planning staff so that we will receive a full opportunity to assess the impacts and make sure that any impacts are addressed, which I'm sure would be your desire as well, Councilmember Nestante.
Absolutely.
So I think we're all on the same path. Thank you. I have had my say for the night, so I won't add anything else. Mr. Heilman, do you have any comments?
No report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Then seeing no objection, we will be adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening and then weekend.
Sign up for your vaccines, folks.
5:43 p.m.